and here
Right.
he just shoots the lights out. So
Yeah. I'll ask one more question before we go to our a quick advertisement for our major sponsor. And we've got questions here that some of our members are writing in, which we'll ask at the end. So bear with us. My question before we go to the break is: so we've talked about the current markets, what Cherry Collectables do. Where do you see the card markets in 5-10 years time? 10 years time, let's say, especially with the digital world looming.
Yeah, in terms of in 10 years, I think we're going to have. I think in 10 years we will have the argument of whether you should collect NFTs or not will have been won by the NFT collectors. I think that will be. That's not to say that you should sell all your cards and buy NFTs now. I think that side of the market is set to grow in popularity, certainly by the next 10 years. I think by that stage we'll be a few years into the Fanatics version of the sports card world, which will be very interesting to see what they do. They've still got a while to prepare, like 3-4 years to prepare. So it's going to be fascinating to see if they end up acquiring, one of the card companies. Do they buy Topps? Do they buy Upper Deck? Do they buy Panini out? That's going to be interesting to see. I think cards in 5-10 years are a mainstream hobby. I think what is happening to cards feels like what happened to sort of comic books and movie pop culture sort of stuff, 10 or 15 years ago, where 15 years ago it was quite easy for you to get a ticket to San Diego Comic-Con. You could log onto the website, you could get a ticket. They were there, the tickets were up there for a couple of days before they sold out. And now, if you want to try to get onto that website to buy yourself a ticket for San Diego Comic-Con in 2022, forget it. You're going to have to know somebody who knows somebody who you can buy a ticket from, because otherwise you're in that ticket lottery, and you've got your one chance in however couple of million of people want to go to that event. So I think in some respects it comes out of it grows up a little bit, and it becomes more mainstream.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Well, on that note, let's hear a word from our major sponsor.
The Wrestling with Figs podcast is proudly supported by Go Figure Collectables.
I can't believe this.
Go Figure Collectables have been established for over 20 years and have an extensive range of wrestling figures, DVDs, and merchandise. Go Figure Collectables offers a huge variety of pop culture items such as Funko Pops, statues, TV, movie, and video game memorabilia, and so much more.
The fact for you, mate.
For all the Wrestling with Figs podcast listeners and Figs Down Under community members, use code FDU5 to save 5% off your next purchase store-wide.
You're gonna be joking me!
5%, yeah. Visit them online at gofigurecollectables.com.au, or if you're in the Melbourne area, go check out the store on 104 Bakers Road, Coburg, North Victoria, and say g'day to Jeff and the team.
G'day, mates.
Support local and support Go Figure Collectables, who continue to do great things for the collecting community down under.
And go.
We got a good question, James, on the comments from Matty Rhodes, who's one of our New Zealand followers. It says, do you think NBA cards specifically have too much product available, which in turn hurts the market? So that's a great question.
Yeah, this is a good question. I'm not the best person to answer that question, but I'll have a go. I think perhaps for some certain sorts of cards, I might stay away from, certain base rookie cards, which, are not difficult to get a hold of. those would be ones, if you were looking to hold on to things long term, that might be something that you don't over invest in. But in terms of oversupply, I'd say it's the opposite. It's an undersupply at the moment, and the problem has come in part from COVID, with the manufacturers' sort of difficulty to print as much as they would have liked, and in the sort of unexpected extra demand that came in the last 12 months.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think they'd be releasing as much as they were way back in the 90s, right? The old junk wax era. That felt like it was that everyone had them. Every single man and his dog had them. And I think with the cards that they're releasing now and the sets they're releasing, it's not everyone can afford to buy certain sets, right? So it's probably more variety, but there's a lot more expense to each series as you get the more valuable ones compared to the. I'm assuming you're talking about hoops is probably the lower end of the market.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure that's the one that's the set that the NBA actually mandates that whoever has the license must print a hoops set. Yeah. To have that sort of that entry level, which is when in a normal year, like if we look back at 2019-20 hoops, which is the Zion and Ja rookie year, that was selling still in October, November of 2019. It was still available for $150, $180 a box.
Yeah.
Which is where it should be normally.
Yeah.
Have you noticed? Can I just ask James? Have you noticed that there's some companies now, particularly EB Games now? We love EB Games, but they're starting to try and dip into the market as well. Is that something that you guys have noticed? And I suppose, being your sort of niche market, do you feel like big businesses trying to tap in and get their cut as well?
We sort of notice it, but it's for them. I think that those sorts of businesses like your Targets and Big W's, they are less interested in. We've got to have cards. They're more interested in my experience. They're more interested in we've got to have something in that spot on the shelf or in the checkout that moves, and we don't care what it is. Okay, so at the moment it's basketball cards, but tomorrow it's whatever little collectible figures of Legend of Zelda. They're not especially concerned, and the when they start getting headaches like they did in the States of fights in the aisles for Pokemon cards and basketball cards, that's when the big boys go, well, that sounds like a pain in the ass. So take these things off the shelf.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's good to see, because it's a sort of it's a good check of the health of, I suppose, of collecting and of the hobby, because it's like, oh wow, people are asking for this in Target, they're asking for them in EB, they're asking for them in the news agents that generally have them. So in that respect, it's always good to see them available in those spaces. Yeah.
I must say I miss the old days of going into a local newsagent and be able to pick a variety of different sports cards, whether it was basketball or NRL back in the day. I remember on my way to school, waiting for the bus, I used to walk past a newsagent and I'd stop and grab a pack of NRL cards mainly, and then basketball cards. So, yeah, it's a shame they don't do that anymore.
Hey, James, I think I've told this story before, and you don't like when I re-story, but I have told you my lunch money story, haven't I?
Remind me. Tell it anyway.
So when I moved house, when I was in year 6, my mean parents moved me to a new house in the completely opposite end of Western Australia. And I had to walk to school past the newsagent every day, and they'd give me like $3 or $4 for lunch, and they'd say, I'll buy lunch from the tuck shop at school. And I was like, fuck at that, I'll go and buy 2 packs of footy cards as I walk past. And I'll go hungry all day, and then I'll gorge on something after school cereal. I can last all day without food. Anyway, I did this for like maybe 7 or 8 months of the year, where I was just stopping buying basketball cards, footy stickers, whatever I could get my hands on. And then one day, it was about September, and my mum says, we'll get you some footy cards because I know you love them. She never ever put 2 and 2 together why I had so many cards but no money as a kid. And she goes, we'll stop and buy you some footy cards. And I walk into this newsagent, and the guy there, Mr. Harris, he goes, it's my best customer. And my mum goes, what do you mean it's your best customer? And of course, caught out, and I got busted. So, yes.
Oh, stitched up by the newsagent.
Yeah.
He also, I bought a set from the same guy of 95 set of footy cards that were limited in release. And they were about $30 for the set of about 80 or 60 cards. And he let me, it was pretty well lay by it because he knew I didn't have enough money. So he just put it aside. And every time I'd come in, I'd give him $2. And he just kept writing it all down. And I still got that set in my collection. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Good work, Mr. Harris.
Well, Chris has just shared a nostalgic memory from himself. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Charles, is what's your most nostalgic memory as a kid, whether it be sports cards? We're going to get into what you actually collect shortly, but, what's your most nostalgic memory as a kid across the board? Figures, cards, whatever it may be.
Well, for figures, it's the Kenner Superpowers set from
wow.
that went with the Super Friends show back in the, I think it's late 70s and into the early 80s. That was the show for me when I was a kid, and those figures, that beautiful Kenner card art with the blue, the yellow, and the red, and the little blister pack with the figure inside.
And the comic book. Don't forget the comic book.
Yep. You get the mini comic. So those are the most. That's where it begins for me. If I track back collecting to where's the germ of this, I can go back to McFarlane Movie Maniacs, and now I think no, that's not it, because I'd already been into other stuff, and then before that was sort of the '89 Batman Topps cards, which were so much fun, and they were absolutely everywhere. Like, talk about junk wax. Like, you would walk into a chemist, you'd walk in, it didn't matter what shop you went into, they would have had that little display of Batman cards on the counter.
Yeah.
But it's really that Kenner Superpowers set, which is where it starts. I think I've got a photo of me somewhere in the backyard with my Superman one, and you can see in my picture, I'm holding it right up to my face, and it's like, this is the best thing in the world to me right now. Like, you can see it. And I actually I can recall probably 15 years ago, a journey on eBay to sort of amass like the Series 1 of that set, which reminded me when you guys were talking about the wrestling figures earlier, that journey of amassing a Series 1 or a whole set of collecting. That was my one a little while ago. So that first series of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, all of those guys. There's about 12, 13, 14 figures in that set. And then and I managed to find a collector case as well from that era as well. So it's got this amazing,
it's the Hall of Justice.
It's got I've got a terrible version of the Hall of Justice that I found at a flea market. It's horrendous. Like, I was like, maybe I can fix it up. Maybe I can find parts for it. And I was like, nah, forget it. It's so big. I think my little boy's got it. He loves it.
That's awesome.
It's got so many parts missing, but he still likes it. Yeah. But that's the set. That's the set for me where it starts. That germ of collecting starts, I think.
That's right. It is an addiction, isn't it? I think we use a hashtag called the hunt never ends and I've got a classic example of why the hunt never ends, because it never really ends, right? You think, I'm going to collect this set, but then something else pops up.
Well,
And,
James, how many